Imagine a tiny island, so small that most people on Earth have never even heard of it. It had no oil, no gold, and no diamonds hidden underground. Yet somehow, this tiny island became richer than most countries in the world. This island is Singapore. And one man would completely change its future. But Singapore wasn't always rich. Back in the 1960s, it was one of the poorest places in Asia. Most families struggled just to get by. Jobs were hard to find. Thousands of people had no work at all. Crime was becoming a serious problem. And then things got even worse. In 1965, Singapore was suddenly separated from Malaysia. Now, the tiny island was completely on its own. Many experts believed Singapore would fail. Some predicted the country would collapse within a few years. After all, Singapore had almost no natural resources. And there wasn't much money left. But one man refused to give up. His name was Lee Kuan Yew. Instead of focusing on what Singapore lacked, he looked for what it had. Then he noticed something important. Singapore sat in one of the best locations on Earth. Ships from all over the world passed by the island every day. That's when he came up with a bold plan. He wanted Singapore to become the world's trading hub. The first step was building one of the best ports in the world. Soon, ships began arriving from every corner of the globe. And that was the beginning of Singapore's economic miracle. But building a port was only the beginning. Lee Kuan Yew wanted the world's biggest companies to invest in Singapore. But there was one problem. Why would anyone invest in a tiny, poor island? Lee knew he needed to earn their trust. At the time, corruption was a major problem across many countries. So Singapore decided to fight corruption harder than almost anyone else. Officials caught taking bribes faced serious consequences. Slowly, investors began to see Singapore as a safe place to do business. Then, the companies started arriving. Factories created thousands of new jobs. For the first time, many families had stable incomes. The economy began growing faster every year. But Lee Kuan Yew knew jobs alone weren't enough. Many people still lived in overcrowded conditions. So the government launched one of the biggest housing projects in history. New apartment buildings appeared everywhere. Millions of people were given access to better homes. The government also invested heavily in education. Young people were trained with skills that companies needed. Singapore became more connected to the world every year. Soon, global companies started choosing Singapore as their regional base. The economy kept growing. The tiny island was changing faster than anyone expected. The same experts who predicted failure began changing their minds. Singapore was becoming one of the world's most important business hubs. The vision that once seemed impossible was becoming reality. Singapore had transformed itself into a global powerhouse, from a poor island with no resources to one of the richest places on Earth. And it all started with one simple idea: turn a weakness into an opportunity. And it all started with one simple idea: turn a weakness into an opportunity. Today, Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world. Its citizens enjoy one of the highest incomes on the planet. Companies from all over the world still choose Singapore as a place to do business. Just a few decades earlier, this same island was a struggling fishing port. Much of that transformation began with the vision of one leader. He looked at a problem that everyone feared and saw an opportunity instead. Singapore proved that natural resources are not always the key to success. Its story remains one of the most remarkable economic transformations in history. A tiny island with no oil, no gold, and no resources became richer than most countries on Earth. And it all started because someone believed the impossible was possible. If a tiny island with almost nothing could become one of the richest places on Earth, what other impossible ideas might actually be possible? Subscribe for more unbelievable stories about money, power, and the people who changed the world.